The Apocalypse, the end of Unich's time. So this video is going to be about something called the year 2038 problem. I'm not going to get too in depth with the details, just a brief overview and some additional observations I had. So you can get out your date calculators to check the math if you like. And by the way, this goes out to the YouTube channel Square Peg Divergent. Shout out to Decoding with Cody, who turned me on to this YouTube channel. Square Peg deals with a bit of gematria and a lot of work on dates, day spans and whatnot, isometrics, pi, phi. So I'll leave links in the description box. So Square Peg will look at an important date or a couple of dates and go forward so many days, notice something happen, and then go backwards that many days and usually find something interesting. So before we get into the 2038 problem, I want to talk about how I even found out about the 2038 problem. There's a television show you can find on Netflix called Manifest. And the basics of this show is that there's people on an airplane, and this airplane mysteriously disappears and reemerges or rematerializes a span of 2,038 days after it departed. The people that were left behind had aged that many days, or a span of that many days, but the people on the airplane had not aged a day. It was as if no time had gone by at all, kind of like time travel. In fact, one of the people behind this project, Manifest, was Robert Zemeckis, who was famously involved with the time travel movie Back to the Future. So we'll talk a bit about Manifest and time, but just remember, we were talking about the 2038 problem. That has a lot to do with time, the end of Unich's time. So about Manifest, these people departed on April 7th, 2013, and they reemerged or rematerialized November 4th, 2018. You could probably see this in the trailer or the very first, 10 minutes of the show, probably. And if you do a date calculation, it's a span of 2,038 days. So one of the main characters is Ben Stone, and he does some calculations. He does a different set of numbers than what I've done here, but it's the same result. He did a calculation speculating that a span of 2,038 days after they reemerged would be the end of the world. And a few members of his family came to the same exact end date, June 2nd, 2024. So from when they reemerged, November 4th, 2018, to that end date, June 2nd, 2024, was a span of 2,038 days. So I've done a few decodes on the show Manifest. One of them still exists on my YouTube channel, so I'll leave a link for that. But yeah, so span of 2,038 days, and which brought me to find out about this year 2038 problem. The end of Unich's time. So I recommend watching a couple of short videos on the year 2038 problem, or you can just type in the end of Unich's time, something like this. But from Wikipedia here it says, the year 2038 problem, also known as Y2038 or Y2K38 or Y2K38 superbug or the apocalypse, is a time formatting bug in computer systems with representing times after 3:14:07 UTC on the 19th of January, 2038. The problem exists in systems which measure Unich's time, the number of seconds elapsed since the Uñich's epoch on January 1st, 1970. So like I said, I'm not going to get too in-depth in the details. And I may even make a mistake while talking about this. I don't know a lot about computers. But apparently, the Uñich's epoch date was January 1st, 1970. So apparently at midnight, the very start of the day, January 1st, 1970, a lot of computers all over the place started a timer and just started counting the seconds. The number of seconds to when the end of the time happens is significant. So there's limitations with some of these systems. So I'll read from Wikipedia. Consequently, if a signed 32-bit integer is used to store Unix time, the latest time that can be stored is 2 to the 31st power minus 1. Or in brackets here, we got 2,147,483,647 seconds after epoch, which is 3:14:07 on Tuesday, the 19th of January, 2038. And I saw someone in a video talking about this, and they said, "Oh, pi time, 3:14, right?" And the guy explaining it seemingly had not noticed that connection there. I don't buy it, but so the Unix epoch is January 1st, 1970. That's when the timer started. And remember, I talked about that crazy amount of seconds that will elapse before the end of Unix time. That's a prime number, and I believe it's what's called a Mersenne prime. Again, check the description. I'll leave some links. It's the 8th Mersenne prime, as I remember. Supposedly, when this time runs out, many computers could potentially have a problem, or it could be something similar like the Y2K scare. In fact, some of these videos reference the Y2K event or non-event. But anyway, so you see these dates off to the bottom left here. January 19th, 2038, the end of Unix time. The beginning of Unix time, January 1st, 1970. And then above that, you see December 13th, 1901. So I'm not sure exactly if something specific happened in history in that day. I mean, a lot of things in history happen. So you can go look it up. I know it's the day after something to do with Morse code, the first transmission, I suppose. But from December 13th, 1901 to the beginning of epoch's time, Unix time, was 24,854 days. From the beginning of Unix time until the end of Unix time is a span of that exact amount of days. 24,856 span, meaning including the ending dates. So the first span, the first calculation was without the end date, and the calculation off to the right is with the end date included. But you see the numbers match there. And supposedly, with this 2038 problem, on January 19th, 2038, at pi time, 3:14 and 7 seconds, or maybe it was when it turns to 8 seconds, that's when the time turns back to December 13th, 1901. So apparently some computers are going to get confused and suddenly display the time December 13th, 1901. Obviously, that could create some problems depending on what you're using your computer for. So, I told you about some additional observations. Real quick, just look at this calculation again. December 13th, 1901, when the clock will reset back to the beginning of Unix time. January 1st, 1970 was without the end date. 24,856 days. And from the beginning of Unich's time, January 1st, 1970, going forward that many days, a span of days, including the ending date, the same number, 24,856. But if we take that number and divide it in half, so this is interesting. I wanted to find the midway point, right? From the beginning of Unich's time until the end of Unich's time. What's that midpoint? And what happened with computers or otherwise? So according to my calculations here, the midway point was January 11th, 2004. So apparently, January 11th, 2004 was the date in history that Mark Zuckerberg registered something called the Facebook.com domain. Yes, they had the in the beginning. So for the gematria people out there, that could be something. I didn't really see anything significant there, but just looking at the midway point, it's January 11th, 2004. Zuckerberg, big name with people who use computers. So you can check online to find this date about the Facebook registration. And you could also see the movie The Social Network. It mentions that somewhere during the movie. Oh, and something else about Mark Zuckerberg and that movie, the social, what was it called? I think it was called The Social Network. But the person who played the role of Mark Zuckerberg was Jesse Eisenberg, who happens to have the same birthday as Steve Jobs, another big name with people who use computers. So we talked about the midway point from the beginning of Unich's time until the end of Unich's time. But what about the midway point when we go backwards to where the time resets, December 13th, 1901 to January 1st, 1970? Did something happen? I'm going to show you the date. I don't know. You can check it out if you like. The midway point that I got was December 23rd, 1935. So, do some Googling if you're interested. I would love to see in the comments section some people pointing out some connections there. But, anyways, to close this out, while I was preparing some screenshots and doing a little bit of internet searches, I came across something that I feel like I should mention. So, a few videos that talk about this 2038 problem compare it to the Pac-Man kill screen, where it runs out of memory and half of the screen gets all glitchy. Shows, instead of the maze with the dots and the ghosts, it shows numbers and letters and just random colors. Actually, I have a video I should link where I talked about the Pac-Man kill screen, connected it with Tupac and the movie The Matrix. But anyway, it's the kill screen. It's also called the map 256 glitch. You might have heard Pac-Man 256, where at level 256 the glitch happens. Well, anyways, I was doing some screenshots for this 2038 problem, and I saw a video pop up for the Tetris glitch, the kill screen they called it.